Hey everybody, my name is Matthew Hollis. I review 365 films. So basically I started the first of the year and I've been reviewing a film a day for 365 days. I started January 1st. So today's film is Labyrinth. So basically Labyrinth, I believe, came out in 1986. And so this film, actually, I didn't know this until kind of looking it up, but there's this sequence in the beginning where this owl is going around and with the basically the credits, opening credits, and this owl's going around, and I was like, man, this owl just doesn't look like great CGI. Well, little did I know it was the first time anybody had used CGI in a film, so that's kind of impressive. But Labyrinth really is a really weird film because it's in the, it's one of those 80s films where it was before computer-generated imagery, and a lot of things had to be done with animatronics and puppeteering. And so some of the creatures that you see in the film are really interesting and really weird at the same time. But I kept thinking to myself, even though this stuff is really weird and it feels like whoever came up with these creatures might have dropped acid or something before they came up with them, I remembered back to Lewis Carroll and Alice in Wonderland, which I had read a lot when I grew up, and I had watched, of course, the Disney film Alice in Wonderland, not the new one, but the original. And I was like, man, there's nothing different about Labyrinth than there is with Alice in Wonderland. It's just as weird and has just as much weird stuff going on. But the one thing that the film does really well is you're never really thinking to yourself, well, this is boring. It's always like keeping you interested, even though it is a children's film. So I did obviously, shut off my brain as far as the acting and stuff goes. Jennifer Connelly is the main person in the film, and then of course David Bowie's in it. And their acting's really not that great, but it's a children's film. It's supposed to be a little bit different. Obviously, you're not going out for the Academy Award and of the best acting ever in a children's film, but you're just trying to keep kids entertained, and that's what this film really does, is it keeps you entertained. And the animatronics and stuff in it were really, really cool. Especially when, I haven't seen a lot of that lately. The last film that I saw with it actually was Star Wars, the new Star Wars film. And even they only did it for a little bit, and then they used mostly CGI for everything else. So it's really cool to go back to the 80s films like this, and then Never Ending Story and stuff like that, and see where animatronics really came into their own, and puppeteering and stuff like that. So this film was actually produced by George Lucas, so that there's a connection there. But it was also created, and the story was kind of created by the original creator of the Muppets, if you guys didn't know that. So you can kind of see that resemblance in it too, of like the goofiness of the Muppets and stuff like that. And I really liked that aspect of it because I did grow up with the Muppets, and that was really cool. And so me not having grown up in the 80s, I was born in 1992. I feel like I've watched part of this film like a couple times when I was way, way young, but I didn't really remember it. So seeing it as an adult is a completely different experience than seeing it as a kid, because you're kind of going through all those things. You're like, man, this is weird. This doesn't make any sense. But when you're a child and you have, the imagination of a child, you're watching the film with a different perspective. So what I tried to do is just get myself back into that perspective and enjoy the film as it was meant to be. And I really enjoyed it. I feel like after a certain amount of time, though, I kind of started to shut my brain off a little bit, because there was some stuff that I didn't really not catch on to, but I just didn't enjoy. It was just kind of slogging along, and like I said, Jennifer Connelly's acting is really not that great. And you can see where Princess Bride, the perfect film, in my opinion, as far as like this type of genre goes, kind of spoofed these movies in a sense, because it's like, oh, that's the pit of despair, that's the so-and-so of destruction, and you're like, yeah, of course all those names exist because it's a children's movie. But it is kind of funny watching it as an adult and seeing a lot of the jokes. Some cartoons or some animated stuff nowadays makes jokes about these movies that were made in the 80s, but they have that 80s charm to them, and rest in peace, David Bowie. David Bowie did an excellent job in this film, not acting-wise, but just being David Bowie, I guess. If you know anything about, or if you listen to David Bowie's music, he is a character in himself. So him being in this film and kind of putting his persona on it, even watching the film, there's like glitter and stuff on the trees and stuff like that. And I'm like, this is so David Bowie's world. And even my wife was like, man, this is like David Bowie's world. and it is really, Labyrinth is really David Bowie's film, I feel like, and it was made to open up children's imaginations and stuff like that. So thank you, David Bowie, for making an incredible film for children and stuff. Me, in my opinion, as an adult, this film is entertaining, but it's not, like, obviously, since it is made for children and is rated PG, you're not really going to get the type of stuff that you would get in today's films made for children by Pixar and stuff like that. There's not, like, a deeper meaning to the film, or there's not, like, anything like that, at least that I could see. I could kind of try to do that and say that, oh, well, there's a labyrinth and stuff like that, and really tried to delve deep into it, but I don't really think that's necessary, because I don't think that's the type of film this is. Yeah, if I was a kid, this film would have freaked me out. No doubt about it. But as a kid also, I could say that it would freak me out, but one of my favorite films as a kid, and a film that I rewatched a bunch of times, the film is Labyrinth, but the film that I used to watch a bunch as a child was Gremlins. I loved Gremlins. So that is a equally weird film, obviously. And I just loved Gremlins. You could ask my parents. I liked watching it all the time. It was one of my favorite movies. And I actually was thinking in these 365 days that I'd go back and watch Gremlins, because I haven't seen it in a really, really long time. So basically that's my review for The Labyrinth. It's a fun film. I would recommend it to your children if they're a little bit older. If they're younger, they might not, they might be scared by some of the stuff that they're seeing. The animatronics and stuff like that were awesome. The set designs were really cool. And this is a 80s film if I've ever seen an 80s film, There's some films that are action-y films from the 80s, and then you've got these films like this one and The Never-Ending Story that really, really open, they allowed the people that made this film to really do whatever they wanted. And it shows, they're making up stuff that's completely, I don't want to say it was completely inspired by Lewis Carroll and Alice in Wonderland, but they definitely delve into that type of stuff where it's like creatures that are really weird and stuff like that, and that's really cool. So thank you guys so much for getting on here and listening to my Labyrinth review. I'll have another review for you guys tomorrow. Don't know what film yet. You can definitely recommend it to me. Looks like Bloodsport's on there, so possibly watch that. But thank you guys so much. Appreciate you guys sharing this out. Like I said, I'll have another review for you guys tomorrow, so thank you.